today with my video and blog post for Cherry on Top. So what are we going to work on today? Today we're going to work on something that happens now and then and is continuing to happen. I have a couple of stories, a couple things I want to scrapbook coming up that have lots of photos. So I thought that I would show you how I tackle a project with lots of photos. You guys know I've made no qualms about this. I'm allergic to double page prints. That large 12 by 24 canvas just does not fly with me. But I'm okay with breaking it down. So you see, look at these photos. Like, there's too many that are adorable. I couldn't pick which ones I wanted to use. And then we need these two for context so we know why she's sitting on my lap and I'm peeling apples and she's eating them and, you know, all that stuff, right? Okay, so couple of things. First of all, I want them all. So there's 2, 4, 5, 6, 7 photos. I know that I do not do 7 photos, single pages. So I'm going to have to split them up. Okay, so here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking these 2 photos, and then I'm going to reprint this one as a 4 by 6. And then 1, 2, 3, 4. These 4 will go on a coordinating page. For both of the pages, I'm going to use the new Minte Apple Season. I have already done a unboxing of this one. So I'm going to kind of go off camera. I'm going to create one of these layouts because I didn't want this video to get too crazy, but all the details for both layouts I'm going to create will be on the Cherry blog. And I will link it in the description box along with the Apple Season collection over at a Cherry on Top from Minte. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reprint this photo, cut these apart. So I have 2 stacks of photos. I'm going to create 2 layouts using the Apple Season collection so that they're going to kind of coordinate but not match and not be a full like continuous 12 by 24 canvas. And I'm going to create the first layout off camera. I'll show it to you in a second as soon as I stop talking, and then we'll create the second layout together and you can see all the details over on the blog. Okay? And you'll also get my little double page spread rant and what I do. We're going to talk about how I tackle these kinds of situations. All right, let's get started. Okay, so here's layout number 1. I kept layout number 1 fairly simple. I did a pattern paper background. I did make my own kind of letter thickers with a die set from Waffle Flower Crafts. I have my 4 photos, lots of paper layers, lots of pattern behind my 4 photos, and I kind of did this grid type of a layout, but almost like 2 shelves, because instead of having 4 equal parts like a grid, I actually kind of filled in the middle parts. And then I added some chalk white Nuvo drops to just for a little bit of accent. So that is layout number 1. Now, I have used a ton of patterns on this page, and I used the 6 by 6 paper pad. And so what I have left is a ton of these beautiful double-sided papers, and I want to kind of utilize these papers on the facing page. So the facing page is going to have this larger photo of me and Ella, and then kind of like while the apples are cooking and once we had applesauce. So I'm going to grab some white cardstock because I don't want to use another pattern paper. I want to incorporate all these patterns on my second page, but I don't want a second sheet of this pattern paper. So I'm going to grab some white cardstock, and then I'll come back on fast forward and we'll start to get an idea of how we want this page put together. One of the first things that I wanted to do on this layout was to make sure that I included all of the same pattern papers that are on the coordinating layout. So I'm going to do that by grabbing my second piece of this red gingham paper. And I'm going to go ahead and kind of mat all three of these photos as one block. This is something I do all the time. This is just how I handle multi-photo layouts, no matter how many there are or what I'm doing. I kind of just, this is my go-to. Collage them all together, mat them all onto one block of pattern paper, and then treat them as one large element on my page. The next thing I want to do is to go ahead and add all of these strips. I don't want to waste any of this paper. And so I am going to go ahead and take all of these strips and kind of create myself a frame around the outside edge of my layout. This will help me to, again, cohesively have the same patterns on both pages. It's also going to kind of take up some of the white space on the white cardstock. And I really, really like this. This is not anything new. I've done this before. I've done it quite often, actually. But why reinvent the wheel if it works, right? So I'm just going to go ahead and do one side and then trim. And I'm going to overlap all of these patterns until I have a nice framed page. Both of these layouts that I have created are paper heavy, which means I'm really going to need to scrapbook with this collection again and make the next layout embellishment heavy because otherwise I'm going to end up with no paper and all the die cuts. Yep, it's going to happen. But that's okay. That's one of the reasons why I love Minte collections is because there aren't a ton of the die cut packs are huge, but there aren't like a lot of other types of embellishments like wood veneers and all that kind of stuff. So the embellishment to paper ratio is pretty even for my type, for the type of creating that I do. And then I can add unpapery things, like in this case I'm going to add a white chalk Nouveau drops, but you could also add things like sequins. You could also add things like wood veneers or flares from your stash. All of those types of things would make really good additions to these pages. So my initial plan was to go ahead and put my photo block in the middle. That's going to have to change. You'll see why in a second. So page number 1 has our title, Homemade Applesauce. Page number 2 is going to have our journaling. That's another way I kind of keep those two pages together. It helps me to remember when I'm putting my yearly album together. These two go together because this page just has a title and this page just has the journaling and the date. So I'm going to go ahead and use my journaling. Initially, I didn't think I was going to use this entire 3x4 card, but I started writing and then I just kept writing, and then I ended up with a full 3x4 card of journaling. Nice! But it does mean that I'm going to have to kind of rethink my initial idea for how I was going to lay this page out because there's more journaling there than maybe what I had initially thought there would be. So I'm just going to pull up the collage. I'm going to pull it off to the left, add my journaling to the right of my photos, and then I'm pretty much just going to create some embellishments that are going to like span the entire middle of the page. That was just the easiest way for me to kind of go ahead and get all the elements I wanted to get on this page onto the page. So loads and loads and loads of die cuts here. In addition to the die cuts that came in the die cut pack, I've also already fussy cut the entire 12 by 12 sheet of cuttables that came with my paper pack. So I'm going to layer stuff up. I know that I want to add like the baking, the rolling pins, the same kind of types of die cuts that I used on the first page, with one notable addition, and that is going to be, I'm going to add some of the critters that are in the collection to this side, because that little puppy, he's so adorable, and so is that adorable little kitty, and yeah, just, he had to make it onto the page. It was not gonna, it was just, it had to happen. So I'm gonna use that little circle that says with love. There's a scale. So I'm pretty much, what I'm doing here is I am centering my embellishments across the middle of the page, and then I have two kind of accent clusters, one in the top left, one in the bottom right. And I am going to start by thinking, so initially I thought I was going to stay away from all the flowers, and I thought, well, I have more photos to scrapbook with this collection for sure, and I can do some more photos that don't have such a direct theme of apples, and I can go ahead and use the flowers. But I'd already used so many die cuts on the other page, the apple die cuts, that I did end up adding a couple of the flowers into this side of the spread. So again, I am keeping the first page in mind, but I am not I'm making the pages to coordinate, not to match, not to span across that large canvas. But, and as you can see here, like the first page, there are none of those flowers, but I'm going to get to a point here where I'm like, you know what, I want flowers. Flowers are necessary on this particular page, and I'm going to go for it, and it's going to be totally fine. Same with like the kitty and the dog. So while I kind of mentally have some guidelines, and I know in my head that yes, there is another page that goes with this one, I don't make myself adhere to those things if it's not working for the page that I am working on. As long as, you know, I've got my journaling, I know I've got that other page with the title. So, and I'm working, both layouts are using the same collection. That's as close to 2 pages as I'm willing to go. The fact that one has critters and flowers and the other one most definitely does not, oh well, too bad, so sad. Moving on then. I thought about maybe popping up some of the elements, but for these clusters, they were so well layered that I didn't feel like we needed that extra pop of dimension. I felt like we were doing okay. And I wasn't sure which elements I'd really want to add some dimensional adhesive to. So I just kind of skipped and didn't worry too much about that either. So you can kind of see our design. We have that main center part, our 2 kind of accent clusters. And then once this is all finished and taped down, I'm just going to flip it over and trim off the things that are playing on the edges and that kind of go off the edge. Off camera, before I come back and show you the finished layout, I did add the date stamp and the chalk white Nouveau drops to my layout. Here's our second page. After I turned the camera off, I did add the chalk white Nouveau dots to this page as well. And let's take a look at how they look side by side. So this is not a double page spread. But it is 2 coordinating pages that match and go together. One has like the title, one has the journaling. And so that's how I handle it. I'm just like you. Sometimes I have tons of photos I want to scrapbook, and I have a big story I want to tell. And this is how I deal with it. I still don't make double page spreads. All right, be sure to head into the description box below. Check out all of the information over on the Cherry blog. And here are some close-ups.